Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 518. Woo! As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
Hi, Justin.
Hi, Saturn.
We just spent our pre-show dingling some dangles.
Yeah, like you do.
Like you do.
Like you do. Second show of the night.
Yep.
My caffeine's wearing off. I'm on the
no.
tail end of it. It'll be fine though. It'll be fine. I'll be awake the whole time.
Mine's just kicking in, so it's fine. We got this.
Perfect. You'll pick up my slack.
Yep. We got this.
My week. I'm still doing. I had mentioned an episode ago that I think the term I used was exploring sound.
Yes.
I was learning a little bit of music theory. I was learning how to read sheet music. I was just trying to sort of. I don't know if I mentioned on the show, but I bought like a little Casio keyboard, like from the 80s.
Did you never learn sheet music in school or anything?
I never took a music class.
Okay.
Never.
What,
I mean,
what mnemonic are you learning to help you remember what the notes on the staff
treble
are?
clef is every good boy does fine.
Yeah, or
and
every
then-
good boy deserves fudge. That's another one.
I can't. No, I can't do the other ones. They fuck me up.
Yeah.
And face for the the other ones. And then
Yep.
for the bass clef, it's good boys do fine always,
Yeah.
and cows eat grass always, or cows always eat grass. I always mix that one up. But
Yeah.
those are the ones. The cow eating grass one, and the one about the good boys.
Yeah.
All those good boys doing fine. But those are the mnemonic devices I'm learning.
All cows eat grass.
All cows eat grass. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd purchased like an old 80s Casio keyboard on eBay for relatively affordably, just to have something to apply some of the theory I'm learning.
Yeah.
Right. It's a toy. Like even when it was new, like it's like 37 keys wide. They're tiny little baby mini keys. Like it's literally a toy. It's one of those keyboards that everyone had in the 80s and 90s, just stuffed in a closet somewhere, like at your
Right.
grandparents' house or whatever.
Yeah, I've got a 3-octave keyboard around here somewhere.
I think mine is weird because it doesn't start on a C, so it doesn't really fit. It's a high. It's too high. The whole back half of it is an octave too high. It's just weird. And so I've been kind of dinking around on that. You can't even really play treble and bass at the same time because it's not enough. It's not wide enough. I mean, you can. It's tiny. They're mini keys. You don't have any space to move out. There's just not much you can do with it.
Right.
But I was using just to make note sounds and see the relations between notes and chords and triads and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I finally broke down and bought a big boy keyboard. I bought a Casio because that's my brand.
Yeah.
I bought for people that know keyboards. It's a Casio Tone ST or CT S300.
I'm pretty sure mine's a Yamaha.
It's a 61 keys, so it's not the full size, not the full 88 keys.
Yeah.
And it's
I think
like
that's what size mine is, the 60 whatever.
It's like right there. The second you hit the price category, that's like technically not a toy. Right there, the very bottom of that barrel is kind of where it's priced at.
Mine is old enough that it has a MIDI connector, but no USB connectors on it.
Mine is. It doesn't. It does MIDI over USB, but it's USB. Micro USB. So it just hooks straight.
Mine
into
still has
Ableton.
an old-fashioned MIDI connector for old-fashioned
little
sound cards.
Multi-pin thing. Yeah. So I picked it up, and because what I was figuring out, learning this music theory stuff, is that when you don't play an instrument, you have nowhere to apply the theory, and then you forget it very fast. And also, some things weren't making sense to me because I was only learning them on a theoretical basis. And then the second I sat down and started learning actual piano, I was like, oh, that all just totally makes sense, and it's not really hard at all.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's a thing that a lot of it ended up being stuff that I just kind of naturally do in my head, and I'm not thinking about how I'm doing it.
Right.
And so I'm at the I'm lucky to get through Twinkle Twinkle Little Stars phase in my musical journey.
Yeah.
But I'm making it there. And so I finally did break down and buy an actual instrument that I can actually play music on, and I'm
Nice.
currently doing a combination of things.
Mhm.
I have one of those learn to play piano apps that steps you through it.
I always
Um,
wanted the Miracle Keyboard cart
oh,
to
that,
the
that like
NES.
yeah, that'd be cool. They got them
Right.
now where it's kind of the same thing where they like light up and shit,
Right.
but apparently they're shitty. I don't
Yeah.
fucking know anything about them, but I got an app, and so yeah, I'm doing the app, and it's teaching me stuff. Because what I learned is not having a teacher, I don't know when I fuck shit up.
Right.
So things will be wrong, and I'm like, I know this is wrong, but I don't know how it's wrong. With the app, it's listening to me play, so it'll be like, you did that wrong. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. So I got that. I'm still working through the theory textbook, and I'm also slowly pecking away at learning the software side of
Mhm.
things. So like learning MIDI and playing around in
Yeah.
Ableton and different VSTs and virtual instruments and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's all really cool. It's so much.
Yeah.
It's so. I mean, granted, I could just be like doing one thing, but of course, it's me, so I got to do 50 things.
Right.
But I'm still trying to stick to it. I'm trying to do like a good half hour a day of at the very
Nice.
least reading music theory or practicing piano or whatever. And
I've
Make
never
it-
been good at the keyboard. I like the keyboard. It's
Yeah.
it's fun. I'm just not any good at it. I was okay at brass instruments, and that's about it.
yeah, it's I'm not good at it either. So we're probably similar skill level wise. But it's tough. Like like I said, I've never taken a music class. I've never played an instrument. Like I've owned instruments.
Yeah.
You know, I had a guitar, and I learned like the 5 chords.
Yeah, I was
And
never a string person.
then that was it. But even then, the guitar's so different that like none of it transfers over, and I didn't know
Right.
anything about guitar either. I just knew how to do 5 chords.
Just knew
you
how to play
know.
Wonderwall.
No, I knew "Closing Time" by
Oh, there you
Semisonic.
go.
I learned
Nice.
exactly the chords to play that, and I was like, "That's all you need forever."
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just working through it's so much. I'm learning muscle memory and hand placement and sheet music and
Mhm.
digital audio workstations all at once and theory and all this, and it's a bunch of stuff. But it's been really fun, and it's been really enlightening. And it's been really cool to take that theoretical information and then go actively listen to music and listen for stuff, because what I've learned is I can't fucking hear shit. I mean, not a fucking thing. I don't know what the opposite of rhythm is, but that's what. So like I'm doing this music theory, and they're like, okay, listen to this song, and you can kind of hear the beat and da 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 da, and I'm like, and so what they'll do is they'll do things. They're like, listen and kind of tap out what you think the beat is. I'm wildly wrong,
Mm.
100% of the time. So I'm learning that's
that was
where
actually one of my strengths. That was one
Yeah.
of the things I could do.
I'm learning that's where I'm quite weak.
That's
Is
unfortunate.
rhythm. So
'Cause that's a
means
hard one to
everything-
learn too.
Yeah, well, you can't really learn it other than just like do it. You just got to
Yeah.
feel it. Like there's no trick or mnemonic device.
Right.
It's just like just fucking do it better.
Yeah.
So now my thing is everything I do there's a metronome on.
Yeah.
Which right now all it does is show me how off I am
And my
because I cannot fucking stay on beat.
yeah, my band director in high school, or in middle school rather, he was a little harsh on me because he repeatedly told me that I wasn't actually good enough to be in his band, but he put up with it because I was I wanted to try to get there. So
all right, that's some weird '90s teacher shit.
yeah, but on the other hand, he would constantly praise me for being good, specifically at that kind of stuff, because I was the one who could find the rhythm patterns and things that other people weren't finding.
Yeah.
He would try to find weird time signature music for us because
Yeah.
it sounded more interesting because it was more complex, and that was what would win awards at state championships and shit.
Yeah.
Because it would be different and the judges would appreciate that it was different. And so he had one track that kept going, or one piece of music for us to perform that kept going back and forth between 15/18 signature and 7/3 signature.
Yeah.
And he could not seem to convince our French horn section how this worked. And he was like, Chris, can you come up with some dumb thing they can do? And I did come up with some dumb thing they can do to keep track of it. So that was my one talent, was that. Everything else, I was not that
I lack that 100%. No portion of my body is prepared to stay on any kind of beat at all whatsoever.
I did like the weird time signatures. That was fun.
It's been a real fucking struggle.
Yeah.
But it's the other hard part is like I don't want to play piano. I don't give a shit about classical music. I want to play like pop music and TV theme songs and video game songs. Like that's like, you know, I want to learn to play the keyboard. I want to play with synths. I don't, you know, and so a lot of the stuff you learn is like, well, on your 88 key acoustic piano, and when you're learning your Beethoven, and I'm like, that's not, you know, that's not me. That's not where I want to be. It's not where I want to go. You know, I want to learn stupid shit for fun.
There's one track in one of the Final Fantasies that uses I'm guessing it is a 9/2 signature, because the beat is kind of a 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2, and I dig that. I'm a big fan of those weird time signatures.
Yeah, I understand time signatures on paper.
Yeah.
When you play them for me, I'm like, sounds the same as all other music. No ability to hear it at all. I'm convinced it's one of those things where, like, you know, some lobsters can see like colors we can't.
Right,
I'm convinced it's that.
It could be.
I'm utterly convinced.
That's how I feel about high frame rates, by the way.
Well, there you go. Well, again, I can't see those, but I feel them. I can feel. So maybe once I begin playing weird time signatures, I'll feel it.
Right.
But right now everything's 4/4 because you know I'm a little baby. I think I play little baby songs for babies.
4/4 and 3/4 are how you warm into it. Once you get those two down, the rest of it's easy.
Right. What have you been doing, Saturn?
So I've been playing a game called Haste, which may also be called Haste Broken Worlds. At least that's what the box art on Steam says. But then the actual title on Steam just says Haste. So it is kind of, it's weird. Did you play
You're
Excite
playing
Bike
a weird
on NES?
game? What?
I know.
Of course I did. God, I played the shit out of Excite Bike.
So you know how in Excite Bike, if you when you take a jump, you want to angle yourself the right direction to land from the jump.
Yes,
otherwise
so that you don't
out.
bounce, or spin out,
So it's basically that expanded out into a full game, where it's like an endless runner from over the shoulder in these giant worlds, where you're running 110 miles an hour all the time, and you're constantly like jumping up in the air and having to land at the right angle on a hill to keep your speed and not slow down, because the world is disintegrating behind you and it's like catching up to you constantly.
Oh shit.
And if you get caught in it, you get blowed up.
That's the plot of the Never-Ending Story.
Yeah, basically. And it's got a little story to it and everything, and the story is kind of cute.
Yeah, it looks cute. It's very colorful.
It's tough. It is very tough. I am really struggling with like getting the pace of it down, speaking of rhythm. Because it goes very fast once you start going. And I really just need to drop the difficulty down to easy until I get into the rhythm. But on the difficulty select slider, it had one of those messages of, this is the intended difficulty and this is what you should try.
That's as bad as when they're like, do you want to put it on infant, baby, stupid person mode? Whenever it's like, this is what we intended. And I'm like, I guess I got to do it.
Yeah, it always makes me try it at least. So I have been trying it. It's tough. It is real tough, but I am enjoying like the feel of it. Like it has that really rewarding feel when you do land. It has just the right visual indicator that you landed correctly. That gives you that burst of endorphins that makes you want to keep going. So I have been enjoying that, but it is a little tough. Also graphically, it's way more than my laptop can handle, so I can only play it at my desktop. I think it uses Unreal or Unity or one of those that for some reason my shitty Intel graphics on my laptop just can't handle it. But it's fun. It's neat. Also, the Nintendo Switch came out.
Yes, I saw that you purchased the Super Switch.
So I purchased the Super Ultra Switch. It is a Switch. So you turn it on and its user interface looks almost identical to the original Switch. And it immediately, like, when I got my Series X, I had the same issue where I turn it on and it has literally the same
it's an
user
Xbox
interface. Yeah. And like for the first month that I had my Series X, there weren't any Series X exclusives I could really play yet that I cared about, because it was all just upgraded games. So I really had that like brief moment of, oh, I just have the Switch again.
Yeah, I have a lot less money and a Switch still. I
Yeah.
did it.
But it does support 4K, which is nice.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
I have it pumped in through my receiver because my receiver does 4K 144.
Yeah.
The Switch doesn't. It does 4K 60. That's as far as you can
because
go.
it's 144 only handheld, right? That's
No,
that's
it'll do
or
120.
120. That's what it is. 120.
And it'll do 120 on the dock if you drop it to 1440.
Oh. Okay. Well, I guess
If
hardware
you
is what it is.
Yeah, you can either do 1440 at 120 or you can do 4K 60. And since
Oh,
I can't
do
see higher
1440,
frame rates,
120 all day
since
long.
I can't see the higher frame rates, I just bumped it up to 4K 60, and I'm like, this is enough for me.
Yeah.
But it's like graphically, it's really nice. Been playing some Mario Karts and some Bravely Default,
Yeah.
and I also picked up Yakuza 0.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw the commercial for Yakuza 0 and I was like, all right, I have to buy this. I don't know if you've seen the commercial they put out, but they got the three actors who play the lieutenants of the Dojima clan, the ones that are basically the antagonist for all of Yakuza 0.
Yeah.
They got those three actors back and they put them in a set that looks like the Dojima clan office, and they put them in costumes that look like their costumes from the game. So they look exactly like the characters, just older now because it's been 10 years, whatever. And also they digitally de-aged them in the game a little bit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just them playing their characters from the games. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool seeing them in live action. Except for they obviously do not have the rage that the characters in the game have, so they look really goofy trying to look like that. And that totally sold me. I was like, yeah, I could play Yakuza 0 again.
Marketing works.
Yep. It was a good job, Sega. You sold me on that one. Bravely Default is a good port. It's nice to see that played on a single screen. I'm very stoked.
Didn't that come out on Switch 1
No.
too? Was it,
No,
okay,
it is
so Switch 2
exclusive.
Okay.
For some fucking reason, despite the fact that it could easily play on literally every
I was
console.
about to say Bravely Default 2 was on Switch, wasn't it?
Yes, it was on Switch 1 and PC. As the two systems Bravely Default 2 was on.
Very weird.
Mm-hmm. But this one is Switch 2 exclusive for now. Same as the Yakuza 0 remaster, Switch 2 exclusive for now. I'm guessing both of those are going to be timed exclusives. I think they'll make it elsewhere.
Yeah,
I don't see a good reason why they wouldn't. But Mario Kart obviously is going to be a Switch 2 exclusive, and I can see why it definitely is doing some stuff the original Switch couldn't do, or at least would struggle with.
I mean, even in the trailers, like big open worlds like that, that speeds, Mario Kart, all these different people, the online, everything. Sure, I could see it. Yeah.
I will say it does seem to throw a lot more references to older Mario games than the last few Mario Karts have done.
That's cool,
and I appreciate that. Of the playable characters, there's some weird shit in there immediately off the bat, and I love that. I want more weird characters, because the last couple of Mario Karts were like half the roster were Koopalings, which
it felt
cool.
They were cool, but also you know,
like I like the Koopalings as characters, but they're all kind of samey. Whereas this, you power it up and it's like your generic Mario Kart characters, and also the fish skeleton from Mario World and the snowman from Mario 64 and my character Crab from Mario Brothers. and then when you win, he gets a little crown on his head, and that's great. The little crab with a crown on his head is exactly what every game needs. I am all for that.
So Mario Kart was like, World looks great. I love Forza, so I'm totally down for Mario Kart World.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I'm $500 down for it.
Yeah,
There's not much else for me yet.
Right,
know?
yeah, and I completely understand that. The reason I decided to get the system at launch was after I had hacked my original Switch, I was like, outside of the launch models, we might not be able to hack any consoles going forward. And so do I need to buy it at launch just to get a hackable console? And that was the thing that convinced me to do it. Also, fear that the Switch 2 is not going to do as well as the original Switch, and there might be an ambassador program like there was for 3DS. And I was like, I want in on that.
Yeah.
Which that's a lame reason, but it
seems like it's already doing pretty good.
Yeah, it seems to be doing pretty well, but there does seem to be more stock in stores than a lot of people predicted, which is good.
True.
There needs to be stock. People should be able to buy consoles. Damn it, we don't want everything to sell out.
Yeah, I said what I'm waiting for is a couple more games because it's
Mhm.
$500.
Sure.
I just paid that much for a PS5, and that thing.
It's $450.
Excuse me. But I don't know. I want the SD cards to come down in price.
Yeah, that's my
I
big
want more
thing.
games. I want more hard details on the boosts that my Switch 1 games are going to get, because that was a selling point for me. And they came out and
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, it'll be there, but also we're kind of wibbly wobbly on it. We don't have a lot of
Yeah.
details and
So
whatever.
I
Maybe don't
did
pay attention
test.
to it.
I tested Link's Awakening because that's
Sure.
the one I wanted to know, and it does seem to run at a much more consistent frame rate.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice. The big one for me would be Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. If I could get those to run not
I
like
like
hot,
those.
dirty garbage, that would be awesome.
You're-
But then
you're more than
also,
welcome to come by and test them on mine, but I don't have those games.
I now have a Switch 2 sitting on my dining table.
Oh, right,
My
yeah.
brother ordered one from Walmart, and he had it shipped to me, and so it's just sitting. I'm not going to open it. It's his, but
The box is so tiny compared to the original Switch box.
it is quite small. Did you? I think that the OLED Switch. I think it's the OLED Switch box size, because the OLED Switch had a smaller box too, and it looks the same size as that.
I never
one, so-
had OLED and I never had Lite, so I'm coming from first day launch Switch to the Switch 2.
Yeah,
So for me, it's a huge upgrade as far as the screen goes. Looks great.
sure.
The
it's going to look
system
great in
is
the dock
larger.
where you're going to keep it
Yep,
all the
it's gonna
time.
be in the dock all the time. I put my screen protector on it, put it in the dock, and I was like, "This is where you live now."
Yeah,
But no, it's the Joy-Con also feel really nice. Like they're
That's
slightly
good.
larger than the original Joy-Con, and I don't have big strong hands like you do, but I
Yeah.
still have big enough hands that the original Joy-Con always felt a little awkward to me, and these feel good. Also, I was impressed with how the magnet works on the controllers. That was
that does look
much
really cool. The
smoother.
connection mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah.
The larger size and was a negative for me. I like the size of Switch. I like that it's smaller. I already have big handhelds. I've already got my Steam Deck and shit, So
Yeah.
Switch specifically for me in my situation is like, it's the handheld I take when I need something really small and low profile, but I still kind of want enough oomph to really play some big games.
What about the Switch Lite?
Don't own a Switch Lite because I can't
Oh.
dock it, and I do really
yeah,
value being able to dock. My wife had a Switch Lite, and it's cool. But no. I like my Switch size now. If I get a
such
Switch
bullshit
Lite
that
that
they
was
didn't let you
dockable,
dock it.
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But also, I really, I don't know that I don't know. I'm really waiting on the Switch 2 because I'm not going to buy any game key cards. I will not purchase one.
I've got two now.
I have a feeling
between
it's going to
Yakuza and
make
Bravely
me.
Default.
It's going to become a situation where I just don't get to buy any games on it, which
Yeah.
kind of sucks.
Well, it looks like some games are coming out full, but
Yeah,
not nearly
yeah.
as many as I'd like.
I'll wait until Will It Play or doesitplay.org has a
Yeah.
bigger catalog, and I
Right.
can really reference it and everything else, So
Yeah, I'm pretty upset about the idea of game key cards. I like them better than I like Code in a Box by a lot,
I mean, yeah,
because there's at least the
it's like
illusion
getting
of
pissed
ownership.
on instead of shit on. Like if you're
Yeah.
gonna make me pick, I'd rather get pissed on,
Right.
but I don't want to pick.
Yeah, I don't want either of those options, but if those are my options in the increasingly digital world, I'm going to take the one that I can even theoretically resell while the system is alive versus the one that I am forced into owning permanently.
I think I'm also just in kind of a different headspace about it because I just got done going through and recollecting a lot of old PS2 and Xbox stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I'm so glad that even 360 stuff and PS3 era stuff, like, it still just works. You just
Not
put the
all of
disc
it.
in, and not all of
Some
it,
the
but
360 and PS3 stuff was code in a disc.
sure, but a lot of it,
Yeah,
a
lot.
whole lot of it, just still kind of works, and
Yeah.
I'm very recently, freshly grateful for that from those earlier eras. So man, I think I'm just
Yeah.
kind of not in the headspace for
Yeah, there are some
the key card sales pitch.
Yeah, there's some games even from the PS2 era that I miss because they are effectively gone forever now. Just
Yeah,
because they were
there's a
online.
couple. There's
Yeah.
a couple, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Let's do the news.
Okay,
How's about it?
I guess.
The only known copy of Japanese PC CD game Triptaka has been preserved and posted on the internet. Speaking of preservation.
Yeah, that's great news. This was a sequel to some game I also had not heard of, but it had a cult audience. And in this one, there was rumors for years as to whether or not this ever actually was a game, if it was just advertised and didn't release. And and then it showed up on Yahoo Auctions Japan a couple of years ago and sold for like the equivalent of $300, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was uncommon, but people didn't know enough about it to make it like a super sought after thing. And some people finally got in touch with the person who bought it, and he agreed to let them rip it, dump it, and put it on the internet, which is great.
Nice. Very nice. The Video Game History Foundation has obtained and is dumping 125 mystery prototypes for preservation. They just did the live stream for it the other day, and so that's very exciting news. Very excited about all of that.
Lots of preservation news.
A Polish engineer has made a tiny Atari 800 the size of a postage stamp.
Which is adorable, not particularly useful, but...
Yeah. So that's very cute.
Yeah.
And then finally, because again, we're still in this kind of pre-E3 or pre-3, as I like to call it, even though E3 doesn't happen. Pre-No 3, pre-Key 3.
Yeah.
Where there's not a lot of news coming out, but Sony did do a state of play.
Yeah.
On June 4th. And a few things announced. I missed this entirely, but Lumines Arise, a new Lumines game for PC, PS5, PSVR 2. This is God, please be Tetris Effect for Lumines, please, for the love of God.
Yes, it is. Did you look at the video yet?
I've not seen the video. I've seen stills of it, and
and they did a interview during the state of play with Mitsuguchi afterwards, and he was like, "You might remember us from Tetris Effect, and this is us doing Tetris Effect for Lumines."
God, I'm so excited. I love Lumines.
The trailer they aired for it, like it started playing the music first, and I was like, this is some Q Entertainment stuff right here. It sounds like Tetris Effect or one of those games. And then they start showing it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what that is.
This was not on my bingo card. I'm very excited. Lumines is great. Lumines 2 is great. I even have the 360 Lumines. I just bought it a couple months ago. And
I've got that as well. I've got
chock
it
full of
installed on my
microtransactions.
Xbox One.
Still fun. The remaster was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited for this. I really hope they do the soundtrack on vinyl. I got the Tetris Effect on vinyl, so I also hope they do a physical release for this.
Yeah, same here. And I am this was the first game during a state of play where I was like, oh, I'm happy I do have a PSVR 2 all of a sudden.
Bloodstained: The Scarlet Engagement is a new sequel to Ritual of the Night for PS5, Xbox, PC. That is very exciting news for Igavania fans.
Yes.
I've started and stopped Bloodstained many times. I just can't. I don't know what it is. I just can't.
I enjoyed Bloodstained, and it looks like they're bringing back the mechanic from Portrait of Ruin where you have two playable characters at once and you can jump between them.
Yeah.
So that looks like it'll be good. As soon as they mentioned the name, I thought about all the complaints you had about the name of the first game. And, and the subtitle did not make it any better.
The Scarlet Engagement.
Yeah.
It's got to be intentional at this point. I mean, come on.
I mean, it's a title about blood. So, yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
The long-rumored Final Fantasy Tactics remaster is coming this year for PS4, PS5, Xbox, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC. I've already pre-ordered my copy. I'm very excited about it. Yes. I don't like how smooth it looks.
Yeah, it does look like they just kind of ran it through a filter.
Yeah, everything looks very Eagle filtery. Like, I'm sure it's not, but also it really looks Eagle filter. I think I was hoping for more of that HD 2D vibe they got going on.
Same.
Shit, and it is. Yeah. It's kind of not that. It looks very flat.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm excited for it. I've never been able to stick with Final Fantasy Tactics except for Advance, which is objectively the best and coolest one.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I get to really sit down and put some time in on this one.
And it looks like the physical may only be PS5 and Switch.
Well, I did pre-order on Switch, the old dumb Switch one that's garbage now.
Yeah.
That's what I'll be playing it on.
They did announce a collector's box.
I saw that comes with not the game, which means it's not a collector's edition of the game.
Right.
So it's just toys that they're selling you for a lot of money.
Also, they've sold out of the collector's box.
Oh my God. How much is it?
I don't even know because it won't show me because it's sold out.
Jesus
wait,
Christ.
Never mind. There it is. $250 American.
I mean, you get some stuffed chocobos.
There are 3 adorable stuffed chocobos.
What kills me is they could just sell the stuffed chocobos on Amazon for $10 a pop.
Yes.
They would make millions of dollars.
Yes.
I mean, millions.
Also, it comes with little acrylic job stones for you to step on.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah. That's very cute. Not $250 is cute. But anyway, I'm excited for this. I'm a little... other than it looking kind of butt ugly, I'm excited for it anyway.
Yeah, same.
Digital Eclipse and Warner Brothers are releasing a new Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection with a K for all consoles with a K, and featuring arcade originals and classic with a K, console with a K, and handheld ports.
I had to fight every amount of my muscle memory to put all those Ks in there, so I appreciate that you explained it for the listeners.
This is cool. Mortal Kombat has never really been treated to the constant. It used to get collections. It hasn't really gotten a collection in a while, so it's cool to see a new one coming out for people that like Mortal Kombat that aren't me.
Yeah. And it does look like a good collection, and Digital Eclipse always does good collections. So
for sure. Sometimes they're a little clinical, but always good.
Right. Yeah. The number of games in this one is especially weird because it has all of the old Game Boy and Game Gear Mortal Kombats that were not great ports to begin with.
No.
And then it also has Mortal Kombat Advance in it, which is famously the first game that EGM ever gave a 0.0 score to.
Oh, so exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting. The Thief series is getting a reboot exclusively on PSVR 2. So
yeah. I think it's exclusive to PSVR 2. It may have also been on
for
PS5,
now anyway, yeah.
But it's at least supports PSVR 2.
Deus Ex PS2, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Twisted Metal 3 and Twisted Metal 4 are all being added to the PlayStation Classics program, which is cool.
Yeah.
And finally, Sony is releasing a new first-party arcade stick.
Yeah, it looks like an arcade stick with very shiny, polishy buttons.
I'm looking. It's got that PS5 sort of like tuxedo vibe where it's like half black, half white. It looks nice. This is a nice looking stick.
Yeah.
I'd want to know what the internals are before I give them any amount of money for it. Right. It is wireless too, which is cool, and it includes a sling carrying case so that players can take, quote, Project Defiant on the go in a sleek, sturdy carrying case that includes a lever gap to keep the digital stick safe during transport.
Okay.
All right, dude. I guess. Neat.
Yeah.
Anyway, that brings us to our topic at hand, which is Final Fantasy Adventure Part 2, the plot and development of the game. For those of you who either have already played the game and don't care about spoilers, or just don't care about spoilers in general because you're like, story in a video game, what? Nobody pays attention to that crap.
Yeah.
I did notice when I played this game, I was so invested in the final boss fights, and then I got to the end and they started talking, and I immediately whipped out my phone. and I had to stop myself and be like, I guess I should watch the ending cutscene.
Yeah.
But I was like, killed the boss, done with the game, throw it in the trash. Like I was just going to not watch it, I guess.
Yeah.
Synopsis. I'm pretty sure Final Fantasy Adventure Part 2 is Secret of Mana. Correct.
Yes.
That is correct.
But the name of this episode is Final Fantasy Part 2, but we are not doing Secret of Mana.
For scope, we did all the gameplay in the beginning, so this is the spoiler episode, so spoilers abound. You might be able to make it through some of the development stuff, but I'll try to remember to put in another spoiler warning before we're like, hey, literally just going through the plot beat for beat.
Yeah. Not that it's like a super deep plot or anything.
I've a lot to say.
Okay. All right.
I felt things. I felt emotions.
Okay.
I laughed. I cried. I laughed, cried.
Yeah.
I thought about quitting the game several times. And I thought it was stupid and genius all at once.
Yeah.
But first, you got to tell us about development.
All right. So in 87, Square had been advertising an upcoming 5-disc Famicom Disk System game.
Holy shit.
Called Seiken Densetsu Excalibur no Shutsugen, or Legend of the Holy Sword, The Emergence of Excalibur.
Okay.
And this was going to be their big magnum opus grand epic released for the Famicom Disk System. And then they canceled it. They canceled it in October of 87, and all the pre-order customers, because Japan was already big on pre-orders at the time, we in the West were not, but all the pre-order customers were advised to instead try Square's other upcoming game called Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of that.
Yeah, that one did okay. And Squaresoft's localizer, Kaoru Moriyama, she says that the actual work on the game never actually started.
So they announced it.
Yes. Took pre-orders
and hadn't even started. I mean, granted, games back then took 6 months to make. Even
Right.
then again, 5-disc FDS game. Who the fuck knows?
Right.
But had taken people. They just kickstarted it. They're like, yeah, give us all this money and we'll sell you this thing. And then they're like, never mind.
Yeah. Then they started work on Final Fantasy. They're like, oh, we don't need that other thing. Let's not do that.
What a world would it have been if instead of Final Fantasy they made a 5-disc FDS game?
Right. Because that certainly would have never been localized.
No. How would they?
Exactly.
I mean, it'd be like 10 cartridges long.
Right. And I imagine that probably not, because there were some 2-sided FDS games that ended up being on a small cart.
That's true.
So.
That's true. I think it would have had to at least been either, what had been, I don't know, 2 cartridges?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Or just a really big ROM.
Yeah, or a giant one, be a $300 game.
Yeah. If, they didn't just end up cutting it to death during the translation.
Yeah. Also true.
Then later, years later, during the development of Final Fantasy III, the game's designer, Koichi Ishii, who is also credited with creating both Chocobos and Moogles for the Final Fantasy series, he was expressing interest in creating a spin-off series to explore some new gameplay options so that they wouldn't just have to keep making RPG over and over again. And Ishii had chosen the Game Boy as the target platform because he felt that customer expectations would be less rigid for Game Boy games. They could be a lot more weird.
They could also be shittier because
True.
Here's the thing, like the Game Boy, I don't know, the Game Boy is very much the NES 2 in the same way that the Game Boy Advance felt like the Super NES 2. But I feel like by Final Fantasy 3, gaming and the Super Nintendo and everything had kind of evolved to this point of like, we
want bigger and
expect
better.
shit. Well, bigger and better, but also we expect shit to work and feel like it was, for the most part, quality controlled before it came out to release.
I don't know if you've played some early Super Nintendo games. Because some of them did not go through quality control.
There were always some exceptions, but I feel like the expectation coming from like early NES up into mid NES, it was like, we grew up with NES games. I remember we had several NES games that just literally didn't fucking work. Like the game itself was broken, and it was a broken design that did not function. Yeah. And we were just like, that game just doesn't work. You just play it till you can't play it anymore, and then it's like
X-Men.
It makes you think of that scene in Wayne's World where he's like beauty parlor, you can't get to the second level, and kids keep pumping in quarters like rats at a feeder bar getting another food pellet.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's the most accurate description of Nintendo games I've ever heard in my life.
Plenty of games from that era,
Yeah, but I feel like by the time the Super Nintendo rolled around, we started getting bigger RPGs and stuff. Expectation was like, we're kind of expecting one, like you said, bigger and grander experiences, but also the games to kind of work more and work better.
Except for Secret of Mana. That one, you can just kind of walk through enemies sometimes.
But then Game Boy was kind of the Wild West. It felt like early in NES where it was like, shit can just kind of not fucking work or be broken, and people are like, it's for kids, who cares? It's
whatever,
kids'
it's
toys.
$25 as a Game Boy game.
Yeah, you bought it for a child. Child stuff doesn't work, right?
Right.
Anyway, so I think that was a smart play on their side for Ishii anyway.
Right. So when they started the game, the working title was Geminites. But Square's
that makes sense within the story.
Yep. Square's management, however, decided they wanted to reuse that name that they had already trademarked years earlier, which was Seiken Densetsu. So they decided they would use that instead and abandon the previous Geminites name. But obviously, all of the games still reference the Geminites. And then, so Ishii's goal was to create what he called a living world in which multiple disconnected games with multiple disconnected stories could be told. That sounds like Final Fantasy already to me.
Yeah, that's just Final Fantasy is what they've already done that 3 times. It's called Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3.
And also Zelda for that matter.
True.
As the same, a lot of games were this. So I don't know how original this idea was.
We've talked about this generation of gaming a lot before, in that sequels at this point were not expected to be direct continuations of the previous game. I mean, kind of everything was still sort of like, let's do some weird shit.
Yeah, the quote that I found was from an interview where the interviewer said, in Ishii's opinion, Mana is not a series of video games, but rather a world which is illustrated by and can be explored through video games. Sir, that's a series of video games.
Yeah, you just defined series of video games.
Yeah. I don't know what fart sniffing you were doing over there at the time.
Yeah, okay,
but-
make a Mana game without a tree in it. There you go. And then I'll believe you. Then I'll
Right?
believe that it's just a stage for whatever play you want
Yeah.
to put on.
So, Ishii had outlined the world and story points, but the script was written by a Square newcomer at the time named Yoshinori Kitase, who some people might recognize for being the author of Final Fantasies 5 through 7 and Chrono Trigger.
Did a few games.
He's done
also
some
of the
things.
Saga games and
Yeah.
one of the Star Ocean, the PS5 Star Ocean.
Yeah. Well, also he's general director at most of Square Enix now. So,
Yeah.
his name is on literally every game they do now.
He was a special tester on Foam Stars.
Oh boy,
Remember Foam Stars, you guys?
is that already dead? That's
Oh
gotta be
yeah,
already
no,
dead
that's
now,
dead.
right?
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
good.
yeah, it's dead as shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I think
gone.
it came out of the gate dead.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was composed mostly by Kenji Ito, who would later become known for his work on the Saga series and a bunch of other stuff too.
Mm-hmm,
That's a good soundtrack though. Man, that was a great soundtrack.
Yep. Very good stuff.
Yeah.
I was looking at his credits and he had something on there called Hero Must Die Again. I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
But yeah, he did a bunch of stuff. Romancing
yeah.
Saga 2, Saga
Mhm.
Emerald, Puzzle and Dragons, Gran Turismo 7. He was on as a QA tester for that, which is weird, but did music arrangement for some Smash Brothers stuff, I believe. Yeah, Smash Brothers Wii U and 3DS.
The
some
later
arrangement
Smash
for
Brothers
those.
games, they just brought in every composer. Like
Yeah,
anyone
I mean,
who was
him
known
along
for
with
composing video
everyone.
games, they were just like, come on in.
Romancing Saga 3, a bunch of the Romancing Saga stuff.
Yeah, he did a lot of Saga games.
Also, Ocean Horn. Do you remember Ocean Horn?
No.
It was a mobile game, and everyone's like, "This is mobile's Zelda."
Huh.
You know, it was right in that moment where like mobile games are trying to be more than just Angry Birds, and they're like, "We're gonna get real games," and it literally is just a straight up Zelda clone.
Huh.
And then it got ported to consoles, so it wasn't really mobile's Zelda. It was just everything else is not Zelda.
Yeah, it was just off-brand Zelda.
But literally, it's like if you're looking for just a good generic, straight up one-to-one Zelda clone, it's a fun game.
Apparently, Uematsu also did some tracks for Ocean Horn.
Really, I didn't realize that. It's a fun game. It's just kind of one of those ones that's gonna be forgotten to the ages.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'd already forgotten it.
Let's do some story.
Yes.
And Saturn, I know you named your hero Link originally.
Well, on the Game Boy. Nowadays,
Boy.
I go by his canon name.
I named my character Justin because that's all that would fit.
Well, vowels are optional on Game Boy games.
Yeah, but I didn't know that here's what made me mad.
Mhm.
I have to name myself and the female character 4 character names, and then I get in there and the first person I talk to is named fucking
Willie?
Amanda.
Oh, no, you talk to Willie first, then Amanda.
Whatever, Willie's there, but then you talk to Amanda, and you're like,
Yeah.
Amanda
Yeah.
is way more than 4 letters.
Well, she
you
bought
fucking
some
lied
vowels
to me, game.
from Pat Sajak.
This is bullshit. I was so upset when I met Amanda. I was like, shorten your fucking name, Amanda. There's too many
Right.
letters in that.
Your name is Amda now.
Yeah, I'm over here being Justin, and you get to be Amanda? Bullshit. Anyway.
Well, the canon names fit in 4 characters, despite the fact that it's the same canon names in Japan where it doesn't take anywhere near the full length.
This is true. Anyway, canon name is Sumo, which is a
Yeah.
weird name.
It's a stupid name, let's be fair.
Yeah. So story, step us through it. Yes.
all right,
we're
so-
doing the story.
So we got our hero who is canonically Sumo, and I'm going to call him Sumo for the rest of this.
Sure.
He is, I'm going to just knock my microphone around for a second.
That's okay.
He is an indentured servant to the Glaive Empire, where he is forced to fight as a gladiator for the Dark Lord's amusement.
And the game opens on a fight, which is
Right.
nice.
Yeah, starts
in
in
any-
media res.
In any kind of RPG, please open on fights, open on mechanical things where I can
Yeah.
interact with the game. Don't make me watch people talk for 10 hours and live in a village peacefully.
Yeah,
Please don't do that.
The sequels fail at this, by the way. All of them.
Start with
So-
a fight.
So I've been trying to replay Trials of Mana through the upgraded remake, and it immediately starts out by just like, let me tell you the background of the world. And I'm like, no, let me fight some shit first.
It's a good rule for tabletop RPGs too. Start with a fight. Starting a game, start with a fight. Someone punched someone. There you go. Now it's interesting.
Yeah. So you start with your fight. You fight a big tiger thing.
Big cat thing, yeah.
And then after your match, you find that your friend Willie has been badly injured.
Not Willie. I forgot all about Willie because he never comes up ever again.
Nope.
He's just this guy that's here dying.
Yep. So you immediately meet Willie, and he's dying, and Willie is in his dying breaths. He's like, "Oh, you have to help because the mana tree is dying, and you have to escape the castle and go find Bogard. He's the last of the Geminites."
All right, cool. Lot to lay on you, but all right.
Yeah. So then you talk with the other prisoners, and they're like, "Well, maybe if you go out through the door that the giant tiger thing comes from, you can get out." That was a failed security system there, Glaive Empire. That's not.
Yeah, we train these guys to kill these creatures, and then suddenly they're able to kill these creatures. It's very weird.
Who would have known?
Who would have guessed?
So you do escape, and you go to try to find Bogard, but instead you're immediately pushed off of a waterfall by the Dark Lord.
Yeah, you accidentally voyeured the Dark Lord talking to Julius.
Yeah,
and he caught you doing that shit and pushed you off a cliff.
Yeah, which is going to be a trend, falling off of things.
Yes,
for the rest of the game.
Yes.
So along the way to go try to find Bogard, you encounter a young girl being attacked by monsters, and she is canonically named Fuji.
I named my girl Kiki.
Oh yeah, she's got her delivery service.
I want everyone to recognize that all these names, except for the characters, main characters, are more than 4 letters. Right. Willie, Dark Lord, Julius, Amanda.
Yep. In the remakes, it doesn't matter as much because then you get 8 letters.
Yeah, that's true. I demand that Bogard be renamed to Boogard.
Yeah, Boogard.
I demand it.
So you save Fuji from some monsters. Her escort has been murderized.
Yeah,
and so he begs you to protect her, and then you're like, "Nah, I gotta go find this Bogard guy," and she's like, "I gotta find this Bogard guy," and you're like, "Oh, then I'll protect you forever now."
Yes, and immediately, so by this point, this is when I noticed the script is very plain English. Yes. The English translation is very like I don't know how to phrase it. It's not very prosaic or flowery. No. You know, I feel like a lot of even this early on, a lot of the Final Fantasy games are trying to inject some character into some of the voices. This is just very like, I need to go find Bogart. Me too. Okay, I'll go with you. All right, bye.
So this was before Woolsey was hired at Square, and so the translators were literally translators. They were not localizers. These were people who didn't speak English,
and you feel it.
Yeah, and so for a lot of these earlier Square games, they just used a Japanese to English dictionary and just straight up copied words out of that and hoped that it was grammatically correct.
Yeah,
and you can feel that especially in these early Game Boy games because they didn't have any space to add any color to anything. So it's literally a 1-for-1.
Oh, they added plenty of ellipses, I think. Lots of those.
No, they didn't add those. Those were already in the Japanese script.
God damn it.
Japan loves ellipses. They fucking put them everywhere.
Yeah. Anyway, so you go out to find Bogard.
Yeah, so you're going to find Bogard, and Fuji's going to find Bogard. So together you go to find Bogard. Mm-hmm. And you find Bogard, and he's like, "No, you need to go find Sibba." And Sibba's in Windsor. So you're like, all right. So you go to find Sibba, and Sibba teaches Fuji, or maybe she already knew, that she is one of the last descendants of the Mana tribe, and that her pendant is key to protecting the Mana tree from the Dark Lord. And so immediately Fuji is kidnapped by the Dark Lord. Technically by the Dark Lord's
Julius.
aid. Yeah, by Julius, who is the Dark Lord's aid.
Yeah, Dark Lord doesn't really show up. Julius is the bad guy in the game.
Yeah.
Dark Lord is present for it, but Julius is the Kefka of Final Fantasy Adventure. Like, he's the
Dark
dude.
Lord is kind of the fake bad guy for the first half of the game, and by the time you encounter the Dark Lord, he's immediately one-upped by his aide, Julius.
Yeah.
But I guess technically before she is kidnapped, you have to go to a cave where you meet up with some unnamed partner who helps you dress as a red mage, and then you come back, and the unnamed partner is like, "Oh no, the Empire is here. quick, let me help Fuji escape. And everybody's like, okay, Fuji, you go with this stranger. And then seconds later, he's like, just kidding. I was Julius all along.
I tricked you.
Yeah. He was very good at it. Very convincing.
Yeah.
So Bogard decides to help Sumo infiltrate the Imperial airship to try to save Fuji. So now you have
I was
Bogard
so
with you.
interested to see, because there's an airship in the game, which means I'll get an airship eventually, right, Saturn? And I was so
No.
interested to see how they were going to technically handle airship travel on a Game Boy.
They didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. No, you don't ever you get thrown out of an airship,
Yes.
but that's it.
Yeah. So you infiltrate the airship with Bogard, try to save Fuji, but at the last second, Julius shows up and kicks you off the airship.
I do like that in this segment, you find Fuji,
Mhm.
and you're there with Bogard.
Yeah.
And Bogard's like, you're like, we can't get through the bars. And Bogart's like, go around the outside and go in through the window.
Yeah.
And it was just such a weird, creative solution for an RPG, you know? For them to be like, I don't know, going through the window, and you have to go around the entire airship, go around the outside, and then climb in through a fucking window.
Yeah.
But then
Except
there's
for
a
you
path.
don't climb in the window.
Yeah, you end up getting thrown off the ship. But there's a path that leads right up to the window, and it's open, and you're like, why didn't you climb out the fucking window and come meet us? What are you doing?
Well, she couldn't fit through the bars until you were there to pull her out. But then before you could pull her out of the bars, Julius showed up.
Yeah, Julius shows up and fucks everything up again, that bastard.
I assume that Fuji is like a cat, where if at least her neck will fit through the bars, then the rest
she's
of her
got
will.
the floating clavicles is how they do that.
Yeah.
So you fall, and this is God, this part of the game is it's one of my favorite parts. So first of all, you're thrown out of the airship.
Yeah.
You end up in Minos. Amanda shows up, whose name is way more than 4 characters, and she steals the pendant from you while you're recovering.
Yeah.
And then while you're there in the town, you've even Bogard's there. Because he fell from the airship too.
No, he's in a different town. You find him later.
Is that where he was? All right, then that's the part I'm waiting for then. All right,
Okay.
I'll wait then. So Amanda steals, because Amanda steals the thing and then she runs off.
Yeah.
All right, what happens after that?
All right, so Amanda runs off. You go to try to find her, and you find out that she is trying to save her brother, who has been kidnapped by a guy named Davius.
Yes, it's just more than 4 characters. This is
Also
the
more
Lester
than 4
sub-story, which is also more than 4 characters.
Her
The
brother
Lester
was
sub-story.
turned into a parrot by Davius.
Yeah, you go to Davius, and there's a weird parrot there that you can't talk to. And like it plays evil music when you're in his town. You're like, I know this is an evil guy that did an evil thing with a suspicious bird.
Right. Yeah, so her brother was turned into a parrot, and she tries to trade the pendant to Davius to get her brother turned back, but instead he just steals the pendant and tells her to fuck off.
Yeah.
But then you learn that maybe the parrot kid can be saved with Medusa tears. So you go try to find Medusa, and then along the way you encounter Amanda, and she confesses to everything and apologizes, and she's like, well, will you help me defeat the Medusa? And you're like, I guess so. So you and Amanda defeat Medusa, but then Medusa, with her dying breath, is like, haha, I'm not even going to cry at you, you fuckers, and then dies.
I think this is interesting storytelling. Where like we come here to get this thing, and there are no tears, and then
Amanda's like, she's like, oh no, I'm going to turn into a Medusa now.
She got bit or scratched or something, which is not how Medusas work. But
no, that's not how Medusas
work.
She's
fantasy.
like, I'm gonna turn into a Medusa. Quick, kill me so I can cry at you.
This was fucking dark, dude. This is dark as shit for a Game Boy game.
And my thought is, why don't I just punch you and then you could cry at me and you can still live?
Well, she wants you to kill her because she doesn't want to become a monster.
Well, fuck her.
No!
Well, not literally fuck her. I just mean like you lock her in a cave or some shit. This is what you get for
doesn't
stealing
want
my
to live
pendant.
in a cave as a
I don't give
cave
a shit.
monster.
You stole my pendant. Fuck you. I was much more upset at Amanda, is what I'm saying.
I thought this was a touching moment where she's like, I'm going to turn into a Medusa, use one of my tears. And then when she dies, you get an item just called Amanda, and it's a little jar icon. You just got a chunk of Amanda in your inventory.
Yeah, in the later version, it's called Amanda's Tear.
Yeah, no, it's just called Amanda on the Game Boy. You just get some Amanda to take
Carry
back
this
to
Amanda
town.
around with you. It'll help.
I like this moment. I like the idea of you showing up and then failing to achieve your goal,
Yeah.
and then this being the workaround, it being this noble sacrifice. I don't know. I thought it was a good story beat. I liked
No,
this story
I didn't
beat
like
a lot.
Amanda. I fuck her.
Oh, I didn't like
Also-
Amanda. It was fucking, she fucking robbed me, but like
Yeah.
I liked the story beat.
Also,
you know?
apparently the first Medusa was Devias' mother.
Which weird.
Yeah, none of
didn't-
this makes sense.
I don't know.
So anyway, so you got the tear, and you take it back to the parrot, and the parrot turns
Yeah.
into Lester, who's the
Lester.
bard. He's pretty useless, but
He can change the music. That's not
he
useless.
can change the music. And so with Lester, you go and you defeat Devias, and Devias is like, ha ha ha! I already gave my pendant to Garuda, who is Julius's pet bird. Different bird, not the parrot.
Yeah, there's multiple birds.
Yeah, it's birdception.
Yeah.
And so Garuda's already gone. So Sumo goes to the Dark Lord's castle to try to defeat the Dark Lord before he can use the pendant for whatever, and also to save Fuji. So
This whole time, we don't really know what the pendant does.
no idea.
It's not revealed. It's just
Right.
like, this is a thing to stop the Dark Lord. That's all we
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So and also potentially to save the Mana Tree, since she is the descendant of the Mana Tribe, whatever.
Right.
That's the you've not even really been told how that whole story works yet. Just that it is a sub story going on in the background.
Yeah.
So
And somewhere along the way here, you've picked up your chocobo at this point.
right. Yeah, the chocobo was near Minos. So
You found it. It's hatched out of an
You
egg.
hatched the chocobo. So you go and you go to the Dark Lord's castle, try to save Fuji, defeat the Dark Lord, but Julius has the pendant. He never gave it to the Dark Lord. And then Julius hypnotizes Fuji and convinces her to cast a spell that will reverse the direction of a waterfall so that they can get to the Mana Tree. Which, first of all, it's not how waterfalls work, because you'd run out of water at the bottom.
Shut up, Saturn.
Just saying.
It's also not how Medusas work. I'm just
Right.
It's just
A lot of this makes no sense. So Julius and Fuji go up the waterfall and then push Sumo off a mountain because he has to fall off of things.
You get pushed off a thing again. This
Yeah.
is when you find Chocobo saves you.
Yes.
And
Chocobo
takes
catches
you-
your fall, takes
Yeah.
you to the town of Ish. That's where
Yeah.
Bogart is. Bogart has
Ish was
fallen
the
off
town
the
they
airport.
forgot to write the rest of the name for.
Yeah.
Just Ish.
What's town Ish?
Yeah, and Bogart's there because he's got a broken back.
Yeah, because he also got thrown off the airship.
From the airship. And I love this encounter. So Bogart's back is broken from the fall.
Yeah.
This
and
is
the
now one of my
Chocobo's legs are broken from carrying you all the way to Ish. I don't know
Yes.
why the Chocobo knew to carry you to Ish, but it did.
I don't know either. But one, I do think it's touching that your Chocobo crippled its
Yeah.
own legs, and I like
Right.
but the next story beat for the Chocobo. But before the Chocobo happens, you show up in Ish, and Bogart is there, and he's like, "You have to become the new Geminite," and
Yeah.
you're like, your character literally. You don't. I don't know. You see a lot of reluctant protagonists in JRPGs, but they're not usually quite so whiny.
Yeah.
You're immediately like, I can't do this. There's no way. I'm not going to do it. I quit. I'm useless. There's no way. And Bogart in the middle of it literally yells, "Shut up," in all caps.
Yeah. And he's just
And
done
makes-
with you.
Makes you leave. This is one of my favorite RPG moments of all time. The mentor character screaming "Shut up" at
Yeah.
you and making you leave the room
Yeah.
because you're being too whiny.
Yeah. He's
And
like,
they
I'm
make
done
you
with
go-
you. Get out.
They make you, and it follows up with one of my next new favorite RPG
Yes.
story elements. They make you go talk to Dr. Bow Wow,
Yeah.
who's a caveman.
Have you seen what he looks like in the remake?
No,
He's like a fuzzy head with feet.
That's what he looks like in the Game Boy game.
Yeah.
And
It's
he
great.
gives your Chocobo robo legs,
Yes. He makes him a Robobo.
which is
Or,
first
or
of all,
a Chocorobo.
yeah, they give him a name. I think they name it Choco Robo.
Yeah.
Which is first of all super cute. Second of all, super dumb. And then you realize what they do. The legs allow you to run on water.
Yes.
Why did he not just give you a boat? I don't know.
No.
But your Chocobo can now travel on water.
I sent you what he looks like in the remake.
Okay. And it's so dumb.
Yeah.
And it's so fun. Oh my God, he looks way worse.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I love all these stories. Immediately, like I'm playing. I'm like, this game's kind of weird. And then Bogart's like, shut up. And then they're like, here's a robot chocobo to run on water. And I was like, this game is fucking incredible.
Yeah, I do love that
This
the
is
chocobo
amazing.
has this tragic sacrifice where it like
does.
sacrifices its own legs and then it immediately gets upgraded into being a robot.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great.
And,
I
and
love that.
I'm going to mention it again later, but it has a happy ending. The chocobo gets a happy ending at the end of the game. So I felt very good about that. Anyway, please continue the story. I just want to take an interlude for both these moments. Again, I like the Medusa story beat. I like when Amanda sacrifices herself. I like the Bogart yelling at you, the robot chocobo. It's just so fun.
That is the best part of the story.
It's so fun and weird. You just don't see this kind of weirdness so much anymore.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed it. Anyway, continue onward.
So Bogart sends you to find Sibba, but Sibba isn't where he was before. He's moved to the town of Loren,
Yes.
or Lorem. But Lorem has been frozen by Carrie, who should have been translated as Marilith. And in the new one, they call her Carrie the Marilith, just in
I
case
see.
you didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then after defeating Marilith, because it's supposed to be all the bosses from Final Fantasy 1. You got the Lich and the Marilith and the Kraken
Right.
and not Tiamat. They kicked him out for some reason. So after defeating the Marilith, Sibba tells Sumo to go find Excalibur, the Holy Sword, the Geminite sword, which should have been called the Mana Sword, but they didn't call it that for some reason. All the later games call it the Mana Sword, but the first one still called it Excalibur.
Yeah.
So then you have to go through cave and defeat the Kraken, and then you have to go to a different cave and defeat Ifrit, and you end up getting the rusted Excalibur.
Yeah. You pick it up and it's just, it's named Rusty.
Yeah, it's the rusty
So in my
sword.
head, Excalibur's nickname is Rusty.
An old rusty sword.
I will say we haven't been talking much about boss battles or really at all.
Yeah.
But the Kraken boss battle was pretty cool because you're fighting
Yeah.
it from a bridge, so you're at a long distance.
Right.
And a few of these do cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
The Megapede was pretty cool. Very Zelda-y.
I hate the Megapede fight. That one's always so rough for me.
I think the hardest fight in the game for me was Davius, who was turned into a mind flayer because there's really just no easy way to go about him. Everyone else kind of has some patterns and stuff, and he's just shitloads of projectiles. Even the Lich, as long as you don't get hit by the projectiles, you can just sort of stand on top of him because you have so much armor. Touching him doesn't hurt you very much. You can just stand on top of him and just wail on him.
Oh yeah.
But
if you get hit by his projectiles,
it
it'll
fucks your
fuck
shit
you
up.
up.
Yeah. Davius was the hardest one for me by a mile. for sure.
The final boss gauntlet also is usually pretty tough for me. But
I didn't have those dragons. I took
not
very
the
little
dragons.
damage.
I mean, just the last boss in its 3 phases.
Oh, the 3-stage boss at the end.
Yeah.
I had to save scum that a little bit, but then the final form ended up, once you figure out the pattern, is pretty easy. I didn't mention it in the last episode, but I was following the RPG shrine or whatever.
RPG Classics.
Yeah, RPG Classics guide for this game, which was written by an idiot. It's the worst fucking game guide I think I've ever used.
I have to see who wrote that because I know most of the staff from that site.
Oh, please go tell them that they're dumb and I hate them. It was a very bad guide. And someone else, so they'd written it and someone else took it over and was like, I'm maintaining this guide.
Yeah.
So I'm getting their commentary on this original guide.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know why the original guide was stupid. Okay. Oh, this makes sense.
It was bad. Also, they were wrong on a lot of it.
Yeah.
They would mix up west and east a lot. They would just say stuff wrong. But it was just, God, it was written so bad. And the whole, they'd never be like, oh, the door is locked, bring 3 keys.
Mm-hmm.
They would just say, go north. And then in parentheses, KEYYYYZZZZZZ keys.
Yeah.
And then at one point, God, I have so many complaints about the stupid guide.
If I remember right, the guy who wrote it was like 13 when he joined the site.
It feels like a 13-year-old wrote it. One of them, it's like, okay, for this, you go north forever. It's like 6 screens. What are you fucking talking about? Just say 6 screens. Why are you like this?
Because
terrible guide.
Yeah,
terrible guide. Where the fuck were we in this?
Oh, so we were defeating the Ifrit and getting Rusty.
Yes, you get Rusty. Rusty.
So then you have to use the Rusty sword to make the tower rise from the desert.
Uh-huh.
And inside
Huh.
the tower, you meet a mummy retrieval robot named Marcy.
Ah, yes, Dime Tower. I guess it would be pronounced Dime Tower.
I don't know.
But I call it
always
Dime
called
Tower.
Dime Tower.
Because that's where you go to buy your dime bags
Yeah.
in the world of mana.
From
If
your
you
robot,
try to
from your
train
mummy robot.
Oh God, I love
Marcy's a great character, first of all.
Marcy's great. It's a weird all caps talking robot that gives you infinite MP,
Yes.
and you go through the tower.
And also the fact that
Um,
she's a mummy retrieval robot. I
yeah.
love that.
You go through the tower. You fight Garuda, and
Yeah.
then you come to the end of the tower, and the bridge collapses. And Marcy's like, "I'll throw you, and then I'll jump." And you're like, "Oh, you can do that?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "Totally."
Yeah.
And then she throws you across, and then
Yeah.
she goes, "You must go save everyone," all caps. And you're like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean jump across?" And Marcy's like, "I cannot jump."
Yeah.
Like,
So
just
the-
fucking lie to you.
So the new translation clarifies it a little, where she throws you across, and then you're like, "All right, now come on, Marcy, let's go." And she's like, "I can't. My rocket thrusters rusted centuries ago."
No, I like this. She's just like, "I can't. I never could do that. I lied to your ass to get you over there."
Yeah.
One, it's another fun, noble sacrifice moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But two, it's just so fucking funny because she's in this all caps, like,
Yeah.
"Cannot jump, save the world," as the tower collapses beneath
Yeah.
her.
So great.
I thought
She's
the
a robot.
Marcy-
She might survive the tower collapsing anyway. So it's
she
fine.
said something like, "This is where I cannot jump. This is where I live and where I will sleep."
Yeah.
It was a very funny, touching moment for a character you had for all of 9 minutes.
Yeah.
As they sacrifice themselves. I like
Yeah.
this beat a lot
So
too.
good.
It was just so silly and
Yeah.
touching, and I liked the whole Marcy story beat a
Yeah.
lot as well.
Yeah. She's
It's very
she's
good.
probably my favorite character in the game, even if she's only there for like a minute. It's so great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
so then yeah,
yeah.
she the place she threw you to just happens to be at the bottom of the reverse waterfall from earlier.
Yeah.
So you get to go up the reverse waterfall, you get to the mana shrine, and then you meet the ghost of Fuji's mom,
Yep.
and she restores Excalibur, turns it back into the holy sword. And then you travel to the mana tree and you defeat Julius. But then the mana tree itself is destroyed in the process of defeating Julius. So Fuji decides that she's going to sacrifice herself and become a new mana tree because also her mom was the mana tree, and also
So I
that's going to
know-
restore peace to the world.
So, Fuji's mom used her Gemma, her seed, to become the mana tree.
Right.
And you destroyed it when you fought the 3 forms of Julius.
Yes.
And then the pendant allows Fuji to sacrifice herself to use her Gemma seed to become the new mana tree.
I have a lot of questions.
And
So-
no, hold on. No, hold on. The
Mhm.
little girl turns into a tree, and then as long as you exist as a Gemma Knight to protect her, the mana tree will be safe.
So I got a lot of questions. One,
All right.
when she becomes the mana tree, it's apparently just like a sapling, and she has to grow into the full size mana
Right.
tree.
Because you got to protect her the whole time.
Right. And her mom was the last mana tree. And it apparently grew up to a full size tree. But also, Sir Bogard was in love with her when she was still a human. So, how
Uh-huh.
old is Sir Bogard?
Oh, he's got a big long beard, so 30, 35?
Yeah, as long as it takes to grow an enormous tree that is
This-
as big as the world.
this goes by Mega Man years, so
Yeah.
however old that old man in Mega Man
Yeah,
Battle Network
how-
game was.
Yeah, however old Dr. Light is, which is like 19, I guess. So,
but they do
also-
also really drive home in at the end. They're like, "You're the only Gemini." And in my head,
Right.
I'm like, "Can't we recruit or like
Right.
put out?" A
I mean, I was
flyer or something?"
recruited, so
Yeah.
you know. Also, Julius was the last surviving prince of Vandal, which was a
Yeah.
kingdom that was defeated when it tried to rule the Mana Tree years ago, and its civilization is in ruins to the point where nobody even knows where Vandal is in the map anymore.
Yeah,
But also, Julius is right here.
they forgot. They forget quickly. It's and he was gonna call it Neo Vandal.
Yeah,
That was
it's
his name for the new empire.
I've got so many questions about the timeline. Is really
I
my
have
point.
answers, and they're all in the form of "shut up" and "cannot jump." Um,
Yeah.
I'll talk more about it later, but the story in this game, I mean, it's as much sense as any original Game
Sure.
Boy game
Yeah.
makes.
Right.
It's all video game logic,
Yeah.
but the good moments are really good and
Oh, yeah.
really almost always combinations of like bizarre, silly video game logic that's funny, but also in a touching moment.
Yeah.
Which just perfectly hits that video game story sweet spot for me.
It's this weird combination of goofy and sincere.
It makes it honestly, and it could just be because I came back from a tabletop RPG convention, but it makes me think a lot of tabletop RPGs. Because a lot of times, like, we're doing shit in a D&D game or whatever, we're like, that doesn't really make sense, and you just kind of hand wave it, and you're like, it's game logic, whatever, we'll make it make sense.
Yeah.
And even the really serious moments in tabletop RPGs are always really silly because you're all just a bunch of people making dick and fart jokes as these very serious things are happening in this imagined world. And so it hits that same kind of vibe for me, like where it always feels lighthearted and silly, but it also still has these serious moments, and it somehow manages to do both, right? It's the perfect Air Bud situation, where it's a touching, heartfelt story about a boy and his dog that also plays basketball.
Yeah, normal things.
Let's talk reception.
Yeah.
People like this game.
Yeah, it was pretty well received.
Famitsu gave it a 33 out of 40. Nintendo Power 4.1 out of 5. Ace in the UK gave it 820 out of 1,000. What fucking scale? What are y'all doing over there in England? You guys, are y'all okay? Do we need 1,000 points to rate a game?
Yeah, I also found there was a second Nintendo Power review after the Sunsoft reprint came out, and it was not quite as favorable towards it. It was like,
really?
I don't remember how, it wasn't a out of 5 scale either. It was just like it was an okay, better than average or something like that.
Yeah. We got remakes. Sword of Mana on GBA in 2003, which I'm planning to play at some point. I was curious.
I didn't like Sword of Mana as much.
Really?
Yeah, it felt like it tried to add too much to the game for me and try to give it more of a modern feel, and I feel like it made it a little too bloated.
Tried to add gravitas and to silly, ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
That you talked about last episode. There was the 06 Japan only feature phone port. That was just kind of the colorized Game Boy version of the game.
Yeah, and I think that one was preserved. I don't know. In the recent rash to preserve all these old Japanese mobile phone games, I believe that one
visually it looks very
adorable. Yeah, it's very adorable.
Very
looking.
ease looking. Adventures of Mana came out on iOS and Android, and also on Vita. There were sequels: Secret of Mana, Trials of Mana, Dawn of Mana, most recently Visions of Mana, which I've heard middling things about. But,
I haven't started it yet.
Still curious.
And of course, Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana also got their own remakes.
Yep. And then there's spin-offs. Legend of Mana on PS1. Children of Mana on DS, which I did play that one. That was a pretty fun game.
The dungeon crawler, yeah.
Friends of Mana on mobile. Heroes of Mana on DS, which was the RTS.
Yep.
Circle of Mana on iOS and Android, which was a card game.
Yep.
And then microtransaction garbage, Rise of Mana and Echoes of Mana. So there you go. That's the legacy.
But at least Visions of Mana showed up to make a proper non-microtransaction.
A real sequel.
Yeah.
As far as final thoughts, this is a weird one for me because given all the weirdness and issues with the gameplay and the relatively simple story, I should have completely hated this game by all accounts.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that just does not have the stomach for a lot of RPG shit.
Yeah. You don't have the patience for all the nonsense they put you through.
Especially menu diving and shitty inventory systems.
Well, there's something about Game Boy graphics.
Yes, for some reason, I found myself compelled and enjoying it despite those flaws all the way to the end. So for my money, if you want a great example of a game that is aged, limited, frustrating, literally broken, and somehow still a blast, that's funny, that's touching, that's got good tactical gameplay, and I think some of this roots back to, I'm sure I've mentioned on the show before, I'm always interested in the minimum amount of game required to achieve an experience.
Yeah.
Whatever the opposite of bloat is, I want you to give me the most bare bones version of this that still gives me the vibe,
the streamlined
but with
experience.
all of the fat cut
Yeah.
And this is like the bare minimum. It feels that way. It's like just enough story, just enough gameplay, just enough tactics, just
Yeah.
enough weird retro game broken shit.
Yeah.
Just enough Nintendo power moments where you have to look up what the fuck 8 means.
Oh God.
Palm
Trees and 8 is the stupidest clue. and so like I mentioned in the last episode, I'd went and got the stupid fucking fang from the dinosaurs.
I did too. Yeah.
And I brought it to the kid on the remake just to see if the new translation would have fixed it, and it fucking did not. It was still palm trees and 8, and I was like, "What are you doing, game?" Like, fortunately, I know how to get to the Medusa Cave now, because I have learned over 35 fucking years. But but it's still just such a dumb, bad
Nintendo power moment. So somehow this ends up being a really great example of how broken, inconsistent, weird, cramped, dated these games can feel, and still also just be really fucking fun and charming. So I still would happily recommend the Game Boy original, despite its flaws. I had a very good time with it. Yeah. If not, there are remakes that apparently do it all nicer.
Yeah, Adventures of Mana especially is such a faithful remake of the original, because it really does keep everything from the original. It just adds some quality of life improvements.
Yeah.
And it looks, like a Vita game.
Yeah.
So I would say if the inventory management is just a little too messy for you, it still has all of the inventory management issues. It just makes them faster.
It's just got hotkeys and stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. For me, it was like the perfect length, the perfect amount of story, the perfect amount of tactics. I had a really good time with it.
Yeah.
I was very, very happy by the end. And it's just exactly, I think it's like right at 10 hours.
Yeah.
It's exactly long enough.
Even the remake is right at 10 hours too. So
yeah. So it's
let's use a Game Genie, then it's a little faster.
Yeah, there's a walk through walls code, which is how I unsoft locked myself. So there you go.
You didn't just do the unlimited keys.
I didn't find, it's surprisingly hard to find not only Game Genie cheats, but because I used so I was on my Analog Pocket, so I loaded up my EverDrive, and my EverDrive can load my Analog Pocket save states, as long as you load the correct game before you load the save state. But my EverDrive, GB EverDrive also has Game Genie support. Finding good, valid Game Genie codes in 2025 is weirdly hard. There's a lot of sites that list a lot of Game Genie cheats that just literally don't work.
I'm sad because I pulled the Game Genie stickers off of all of my Game Boy games some years ago. Because the Game Boy Game Genie came with a sheet of stickers for select games.
I've got a couple.
Yeah. And because the way that the Game Boy Game Genie worked, the ass of the cartridge faced you while you were playing. Yes. And so you would have your sticker there with your codes, and I'm pretty sure I had the sticker for Final Fantasy Adventure on there.
Yeah, I had to go through, I don't know, 3 or 4, like 6 or 7 sites, and then 3 or 4 different walk through walls codes before I found one that actually functioned. So weirdly difficult to find good functioning Game Genie codes.
Yeah, if I remember right, one of the codes was like 50 Maddox and one was 50 keys or something like that.
I did not see that one. No,
and that was how I beat that game.
Yeah. Anyway, I loved this game. I loved this game so much more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
There was maybe a couple of moments of real frustration, like leaving my Chocobo, getting stuck in that dungeon, getting soft locked, getting at that chest with that item I needed, and then not having inventory space and having to go back and sell equipment. But even that shit, like it's just, even the minor annoyances, like running across the whole world takes a couple minutes. It's not a big deal.
Right.
It's just a pain in the ass to have to do it,
Yeah. And if you have your Chocobo with you and you didn't leave it behind, you can just run through all the enemies too. You don't even
would have been
fight.
fine. Yeah, would have been fine. So yeah, really love this game. Really highly recommend it. Honestly,
a lot of fun.
Like if you can't stomach it, you can't stomach it. Play the remakes. But I really do think this is a great example of how weird, shitty, broken games can still be pretty darn fun.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you're like, yeah, I want to kind of get that quintessential retro gaming experience of like, this shit's just kind of broken sometimes.
Yeah.
Also, we didn't even mention it. Like a lot of enemies don't even just have collision.
Right. Yeah.
with the shit on the screen. They just float through stuff.
And all of that is carried over faithfully in Adventures of Mana. It is a very faithful remake as far as all the weird physics and weird inventory and everything. It is just a slightly more polished version of the original. Sword of Mana, however, completely different game. If you're looking to play this, don't play Sword of Mana first. It is not the same game. It's just the same story tacked onto a different game.
Yeah. So just very, very interesting game. Very fun. I had a very good time with it.
That's a great game.
And you might have a good time at our patreon.com/retro warriors, where you can get all what was I calling them?
I'm not saying it.
All of our chunkies.
Nope.
All of our, what was it?
I'm not going to say it.
No, it's, oh God, it's, shit. All of our.
Was shit.
Was it chunkies?
No, it was not chunkies. I just told you it wasn't that.
I'm wanting to call them chunkies now.
God damn it. That doesn't make it better.
It doesn't even make any sense. I don't even remember what I originally said. You can get all of our other shows. You can get our Talking Wizards. You can read long. You get all sorts of cool shit. Please go to patreon.com/retro warriors. And you can be as cool as the following patrons, starting with Oneonoi.
And Fart Butt.
I'm not giving my name to a machine.
Our producer, Guy.
Oh, he left the call. Hi, Guy.
Bye, Guy.
Higgles and his ice cream cats.
Viable patron, Metroid Prime.
Michael Winters.
The Crystal Lair.
The 3DS was the peak of gaming.
Yeah.
I might agree with that.
Yeah, I might not. And Robert Carrier.
They all gave us money.
Yeah.
And you can also give us money.
It was Clumpies, Justin.
Clumpies. All of the Clumpies. I know we're at the end of the second show, so it's weird energy, but Clumpies feels like a Gremlins knockoff movie that you would see like in an episode of Family Matters. Like they're all going to go see the Clumpies.
I'm pretty sure Clumpies is the mix of the Nutty Professor and Minions.
Or it's just Eddie Murphy playing 10,000 tiny versions of himself.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The Clumpies.
Yep.
Yes, go listen to all our Clumpies. That's what it was. What was I saying earlier? Chunky.
God. Chunky Clumpies are what you don't want to find in your yard.
Well, a clumpy is by its very nature chunky.
Yeah.
An unchunky clumpy would be diarrhea, I think is what we're describing here.
That's second show energy.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.